Welcome back to Humankind with me, Daniel, or Dan from Dan Has Fun. We have a lot going on. Let's get the sound on. So, we just switched from being a tribe into the ancient era. And there's going to be a lot of things to kind of show off the bat here. So, first thing I can allude to, diplomacy. We're going to acknowledge it for now. We'll talk about it in a moment. And then it'll show you which culture that you chose. So, this is an empire we've already met. So they picked the Mycenaeans, and you'll notice as that guy on the right hand side is chatting along there, this is what I spoke about in the previous episode, where rather than having an opposing civilization that was like themed around a very particular group, like, you know, Genghis Khan of the Mongols all the way through, instead it's based on a character that, in this case, the AI generated. But it could be anybody, really. So we have this individual, Arjuna. I just picked the AIs at random. I actually don't think he was in like a little practice game I ran through just to make sure the game worked and, you know, that I had a basic grasp of, well, anything. But they have their traits of their own. So he's loyal. So he's very, very unlikely to betray his words. He's also vindictive, which means he is going to hold a grudge. He also has strengths, so one of his strengths is pawnbroker, so he gets more money on a market quarter. And he's a geek, so he gets more science. And he's biased towards the extermination of anybody that's aggressive towards him. So if you declare war on him, it's a pretty fair bet that you're going to be at war with him pretty much for the entire game. We'll talk more about war and how you have to justify war and war support and things like that later. We don't need to worry too much about that right now. The default relationship, though, is interesting. So there's also an ideological proximity. We'll talk about that more when ideologies are going to differ in some way, shape, or form. But by default, you don't have the ability to trade with another nation. You can see their capital, but you can't see anything else. You cannot go in one another's borders. And unlike, say, civilization, your nation's units can just attack one another without officially declaring war. There's the tolerate skirmishes. So you still can't attack another empire within their own borders. But if you're in neutral territory, you definitely can. Odds are, because we're not on a hugely aggressively high difficulty level, the AI will probably offer us things fairly early on, but we'll see. Yeah, relationship starts off fairly neutral. Where is their capital? I don't even see their capital yet. I guess it'll show in time. I do know, by the way, I mentioned it last episode, that if you use the up, down, left, right arrows, you move like, you know, a grandma on one of those little scooters you get at the Tesco's or Walmart or whatever it is, supermarket of your choice wherever you live. I know if you double click, you know, hold down left and right and move, it's a lot quicker. I just like to use the arrows, so I just don't know why it's so incredibly slow. Anyway, I'm sure they'll deal and improve the AI's, not just the AI's difficulty, but also things like the infrastructure of the game, the user interface, the UI, I guess. I'm sure they'll go into that in more detail too. You'll also notice I have this icon, so one of our cities can turn, one of our outposts can turn into a city. Why would we want to do that? So it can actually form into something remotely productive. Do we want this one, though, to be the first one we turn into a city? I would say no. Primarily because it is, as we found out last episode, not a particularly great location. We are going to put an outpost down here, though, somewhere. So, in this area, where does the AI suggest that we put one? It suggests... Does it have a preference on any tile? Not really. Quite often, the game itself will actually show you a tile that it thinks is good. It hasn't for this instance, so we're just going to have a look around. So, if we glance around, what kind of options do we have? That was 10 production. That's not terrible. There's not a fantastic spot. That's 3 production, but it's only 11 production, but it's only 3 food. That's a 6-6. I guess the reason why the game hasn't proactively suggested a location is because it doesn't actually think many of these are really any good. So I guess for now we won't settle in this segment, but we are going to move with these guys. So this unit is damaged. You can only heal in what they say is a valid position. We don't have access to a valid position from here, so we're just going to continue moving ahead anyway and see if we can find curiosities, because curiosities will still show up even in further eras. So it's definitely worth doing, but we're also going to see if there's a better location for a outpost. Although this whole area doesn't look particularly great. So, this unit we're going to have go down to the south, partly to go fog busting, partly because we're probably going to have a better outpost location down here. We will check that next turn. These guys we are intentionally moving together because it's going to be dangerous this far away from our capital. Well, I say capital, our one and only outpost. I guess it's not really a capital, that's the old Civ brain talking. There is another sanctuary and a curiosity for us to take a peek at. The game will very significantly suggest we make a city. I guess for now we will. So when you make a city, it gives us some options. First of all, this is a 4X game, so there's going to be technologies involved. I do like how in this game, for example, let's say I wanted philosophy. Oh no, I can't even select it right now, because philosophy is not an ancient era technology. It's a classical era. Can't pick it yet. So you can't just go down one tech path, no matter what era you're in, and kind of cheese things that way. So I'm glad it actually stopped you from doing that. You're also going to notice that there are really kind of 3 tech types, I would say. So there's going to be one that focuses primarily on districts, one that primarily focuses on units, and then one that's on actual development of your civilizations. Kind of how it tends to break down. And some of them do a little bit of both. But as you'll notice, really expensive tech. So we're going to pick just one of the cheapies off the bat. So we could go city defense so we can get some warriors instead of just the scouts that we're relying on. We're not going to do that yet. Carpentry gives archers, which, well, have a range of 3, but are terrible in direct combat. But more importantly, it gives you access to the lumber yard, which increases your productivity on forest and woodlands. Pretty helpful early on. Domestication, though, is our cheapest tech we have available, and it helps us generate food, and it gives us scout riders, assuming we have horses. We technically don't have our horses connected yet, so that's something to bear in mind. But we're going to go for domestication first because it's the cheapest tech. Remember, we got a discount from one of the events that we chose previously. So that's going to be our tech for now. There's also this button down here, the society. We're not going to touch that quite yet. That is somewhat attached to the stability mechanic. We have an idle city because we just made it. It's now called Haojing because, again, we've moved into a different culture for the ancient era. So you'll notice names get named after the culture group that you pick. So you can very much have, like, say if you had a British culture, you could have London, and then the next city you found, maybe if you're Dutch, for example, would be Amsterdam. Just because I believe that's what I ended up doing in the tester game. So now we get to talk about districts, and I guess this wrapped into stability too. So stability is incredibly important because if it gets too low, your city just won't function, like, at all. It's kind of implying that it's super chaotic in your city and disorganized and you don't have control over it. Districts tend to reduce stability, and effectively you're sacrificing stability to make your cities potentially more productive, and it's a balancing act. So we have to tread carefully. Other things I do like is that units, if you build a military unit, it can cost population, so almost like settlers do in Civ games, but across the board. Infrastructure, for example, is not a district, but they just give you usually flat bonuses. So in this case, the pottery workshop just gives you bonus influence on a main plaza, which is pretty helpful when you'll notice we're earning a whole whopping 3 influence a turn right now. But we're actually going to start off by building our specialty district. You can only build 1 per territory, but we're going to get 1 down immediately. It'll sacrifice 2 production, but give us 10 stability and 11 research. Once we get it down, we'll be able to spam out some food and hammer pieces. We're going to do that. It only gives us 5 food. We've got to start somewhere. We're going to do that. So we'll get some of our districts rolling off the bat. It's going to take it a little bit of time to get that ball rolling. Just like with Civ, you can use money to speed it up. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to end our turn. We're actually hoping these guys don't attack us. We would probably still win because we can defend. But I'd rather not have to run the risk of having to deal with that. Yeah, they're just going to run away. Okay, so they have offered the ability to trade luxury resources immediately. Kind of assume they would. We're just going to say yes. Try and build up a pretty good relationship off the bat. Here's their status towards us, so they're hesitant at the moment. That's partly because they just have Vindictive as an archetype, which will not help. We're about the same strength, apparently. So that's fine. We're not going to intentionally antagonize them right now. We really don't need to. Anything there? Nope. Gonna go this way because I don't want to have to deal with the movement penalty going onto the cliff yet. This is a kind of a weird shaped region as it happens. Down here, we're definitely going to be claiming a territory, though. And you'll notice the starting sector actually that we started in, that we didn't build our city first in, or an outpost, has a couple of locations actually that the game recommends. The game will pretty much just recommend it on pure resources, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't go with one of the ones they suggest. In this case, this is technically earning the most, but it earns less food. But I would say this is more defensive because you're just beneath a cliff here. So we're going to go over here. And I'm actually going to show you, once that outpost is founded, something else about outposts that's important. This one had the ability to do it, but only with one resource, so I guess I'll show it anyway. It has copper. We can't do it yet because of bronze working, but we'll be able to effectively build on it to make it usable. But again, we're going to need bronze working before we can do that. But we'll show you how that works when we get there. That curiosity gives us a free unit, free warriors, which is kind of funny because we can't even build these ourselves yet. We haven't researched the tech. Just for context, strength of 19, movement of 4. These have a strength of 13, movement of 4. The difference is that these guys are pathfinders, the scouts, so they don't get that penalty from forests on movement. But they also don't cost anything to upkeep. Scouts and things like militia further on in the game don't cost you any maintenance. Certain units that are designated fighting units can get very, very expensive. Like astronomical numbers. You can, by the end of the game, have units that cost 20, 30, 40 gold a turn to to maintain, to keep up, which is a lot of money. Anyway, these warriors, we're just going to move around right now just to see what else is there. They're just going to be kind of slightly slower scouts for the time being, which is perfectly fine. But by themselves, they can take out a scout, so we do not have to double them up. Let's end turn. We got a population gain, which is now going to give me the perfect time to show the next thing off that I wanted to talk about. So, this city has a population of 1. Really big city. You can use population to specialize in food, industry, money, or science. And you can have it kind of work out what you want to do. You've got options here, so that when you get a population, it kind of defaults to where you want it to go. We're not going to touch that right now. We're just going to leave it as a balanced policy, and we'll faff about with it later on. For the time being, you'll notice if we have the one specialist in food, it goes 7 food a turn. We're going to need to do that, because to make everything faster, to build faster, to research faster, to get more money, you just want to pump out a lot of population. And early game, your population cap's going to be pretty low. So we can have a maximum of 8 people in our city right now. I'm sure that's like 8 million, or whatever arbitrary value that is. But yeah, cities start off very, very small. That makes sense in the ancient era, right? We weren't seeing typically millions and millions of people in a location. That was an unfortunate location for that curiosity. Okay, that's better. We actually have a couple there. This is very, very high production territory, but has virtually no food at all. So I'm not sure if we'd even want to really settle there. Oh, we got 40 influence, 15 science, so that allowed us to get domestication immediately. So we can theoretically improve horse resources now so that they're usable. We can also build barns, which just means you get more food if you'd have a horse available, but you have to have a horse first to build the barn to put the horse in. Yes. And then the scout riders. Scout riders are very good. But they're just faster scouts. They have no upkeep. They're very helpful. They might not be super helpful on this Pangaea, but they are generally, I would say, pretty useful. Where do we want to go with these units? I'm going to put them over here. Have them go in a different direction to the warriors. Territory over here is, looks better than just having all of the production and nothing else, but I'm not enamored with it. Let's pick another tech. And we're going to start going, I think, towards bronze working. I'm tempted to get a granary first. So a granary, for example, it gives extra food for a farmer. So if you have a unit, a population specializing in farming, it will produce 2 more food than normal. And it gives another slot, because there's only so many population pieces you can put in an industry until you run out. There's not enough arable land, for example. But a granary allows you to put more people in that specialization so that you get more bonus. We are going to go city defense just for now, because we'll probably go to bronze working. But we can change that if we feel like we want to change our mind. We're just going to keep proceeding up here. And now we can see the borders of the one and only civilization we've actually met. And we can't go in there, remember? But they could theoretically attack us if they wanted to, because we would be in neutral territory. If they do that, they'll lose, but they could theoretically do that if they wanted to. We're going to show next turn, now that we have domestication. I always want to say horseback riding, or husbandry, because that's what it is in Civ. But this is not Civ. There's a lot of Civ-esque pieces, but there's not Civ. So, in Al Bali, they're still building the outpost, so I can't actually show you what I want to show you yet. They're going to sit in place, because I don't want somebody just to one-tap the city, effectively. We found animal remains, more science, more influence. We found a ruined shrine, more science, more influence. That's what we want to see. Another resource, we don't know what it is. It's fine, it's a long way away from us anyway. Like I said, this is going to be a Pangaea map, but we're still somewhat in the corner by the looks of it. A lot of this in the middle there, I suspect, is not habitable. I suspect it's just ocean, but we will see. Go this way for now. That's going to use up all our movement, which is a little unfortunate, but we're going to stay on this side of the river. That looks like a different nation, the Orange Nation. We will see, probably next turn. And we finally unlocked a civic. So we unlocked Empire Foundation. By what right do we rule? We're going to close that for a moment. So the civic list here, we already had a civic, but I don't really like to prioritize this early because it takes influence to deal with. This is kind of shapes your moral stance as your empire grows. So we have one for legitimacy, and this is how we work out what somebody's ideology is. So just to show using legitimacy as an example, we could have customary laws, with a historical precedent and tradition serve as the basis for our judgments, or codified laws, where laws will be debated, classified, and codified for perpetuity. If we went customary laws, we're effectively going towards the tradition on the ideology, which changes the bonus we get. So when you're right in the middle of an ideology, you tend to just get bonus stability. As you veer away and become more extreme, your empire is less stable, but is perhaps a bit more dynamic. So, for example, if we went one step this way, we get less stability, but we get extra faith to do with our, to do with the religion. If we went codified, we go a step towards progress, the opposite of tradition, and we start producing more science. The amount of influence you need to enforce a civic increases the more civics you enforce. And they tend to also have bonuses. So a customary law gives you a big discount on creating the outposts in the first place, but codified laws make it cheaper to combine cities and outposts together. We haven't done any of that yet, but that's going to be very important to get big production cities. We're not going to pick anything right now. Founding myths, though, is very tempting to go early. because we can either go natural right or divine mandate, and having +5 influence on the main plaza is actually massive, so we're actually going to do that.
Let's keep it simple.
I think that's a pretty big pick, and it means we're getting 10 influence a turn. And we also discovered the Ob River. Wonderful. Okay, we have an idle unit. We're going to keep pushing. So you won't let you in here. You need to declare war to proceed. So we can't go up. We're going to try by going over here. I wish I had not done a full move, actually. There we go. The game's actually smart enough to stop you from committing to it. That is a fantastic pickup, because it means we now already have city defense done. We could build warriors if we wanted to. We could build palisades, just for an increased fortification, increase our city defense effectively. Garrisons do the same thing, but they also increase combat strength for units in the district or adjacent to the district. We're not going to do that right now, but we do have to pick a new tech, which we're just going to start doing bronze working and then just kind of see how it goes. And I think that's everything we need to do this turn. We can see their capital now. So we have at least 1, 2, 3 segments of the map between their territory and ours right now, which is good because it means there's going to be less border friction. But we are definitely going to start expanding that way because, well, there's 3 coffee resources, which is pretty cool. And we did just meet the new nation, the Orange. So we're going to go over and say hi. They are the Nubians, and it's looked after by Gilgamesh. We're going to introduce ourselves. So in his case, he is traitorous, which means he's going to be just plain untrustworthy. Adaptive just means that I guess the AI is going to be more thinking on its feet rather than having a set game plan. In terms of his strength, so he has increased combat strength. Not a huge amount, but a little bit. He gets more industry. And he will never give up in a war. So we have, on one side of us, a person who, if you declare war, will never stop. And this guy, doesn't matter if you declare war on him or vice versa, he will never stop. That's not terrifying at all. That's going to be very, very interesting. Is he just walking around with scouts right now? No, he has warriors as well. For all we know, he might have got the same curiosity that we did. So we're going to go over there and grab that. Ruined Shrine. More influence, more science. We're actually at the point now where we have enough influence where we might even take one of these guys and have him backfill. Potentially, actually, the game thinks this segment is very good, but I am not settling out there because I'll be unable to defend it. So what we're going to do is we're going to run just one of these units on the next turn, probably over in this direction. I want to try and fog bust this area first, I guess, before we even think about doing an outpost. But yeah, I mean, what we could do if we really wanted to is just walk straight over there and attack them. We're not going to do that, but we certainly could do that. And there's a mammoth over there. It is a strength of 13. The deer has a strength of 8. We're not going to attack either right now. I'd rather just do more scouting. But the fact that he's there means he is in my zone. I'm in his zone of control and vice versa. So he is causing me issues on movement. Notice I used all 4 movement points just to move a tile away from him. It's not worth attacking him, though, because we would have had pretty much a 50-50 odds, and depending on the terrain, we might have had a hard time. So let's go to the left. They haven't taken this as a territory yet. Again, if we went there, what unit even is that? That's just a scout, but we're not going to attack him. We don't need to. Another sanctuary. We're going to go this way and start backfilling a little bit. I suspect, like I said, this area in the middle is probably all going to be ocean, unfortunately, but we will see. Let's end turn for now. Not going to worry about that right now. They set up another, well, looks at another outpost, so it could be tempted to just go back and sit on them again. We might well do that. Let's start going that way, I guess. Am I going to be able to climb this cliff? No, of course not. Didn't think I would, but what can you do? We'll go start going back then. There was a curiosity there too, which is tempted to go back for, but we're going to try and run back. we've been offered him also to trade luxuries. We're not doing any trading right now because we really don't have the gold income to do it, even if somebody does have the ability to do that. So these two scouts, I think, are actually going to both run back. I don't really want to have them isolated because, well, they'll lose to anything other than maybe some plant life. So we're just going to go back. We'll let their warriors up there, though, do a bit more scouting, as weird as that sounds, rather than having the scout. But this unit, at least by itself, isn't just a sitting duck. There's another... Oh, we saw another special land mass. So, there we go. Let's go across the river here. There's a lair, which, if you ransack it, can potentially give you some reward. But again, I'm not prioritizing that right now. We can get another civic, the army composition civic. So we can either conscript, which makes units cheaper to build, and it also goes towards having authority, or we can have professional soldiers and go the other way towards liberty, and that gives you an increase of influence, and just increased strength in general. And we're going to go that way.
It does seem logical,
because if we're going to have nations near us that like to declare war or refuse to accept peace when declared on, we're going to want as much as we can in the way of military strength. And I think stronger units rather than more units is probably the way we're going to go. Quantity over quality is not the way we're going to do things. Meanwhile, now that this should be an outpost, perfect, we can spend 20 of our influence to get a horse ranch. There we go.
Visible mark of this new culture.
So now we have access to horses in Albali. Alibi. I know it's not alibi, but the letters in there make my brain go, that's alibi. Maybe that's dyslexia for you. But next turn. Outposts themselves, though, can't build anything. So I could attach it immediately to Haoxing, but I'm not going to do that right now. Because I will probably make them both cities and have Haoxing expand this way. And then have Alibi, I'm just going to call it Alibi, towards the west there. Alrighty, so we still need to get back. There's a lot of different resources I haven't spoken about out here, like, you know, there's salt, there's sage, up here there's going to be dye. We're going to talk about what they do when it becomes relevant, i.e., you know, when we can actually deal with that in some way, shape, or form. Right now we cannot, so we're not going to worry about it. These two scouts are still on their journey of heading back. We're going to grab that on the way because it's right next door. Extra influence and extra science, I'm not going to complain. Is the quickest way back to where I want to go probably this way. And as for the warrior, can I get there in one turn? Absolutely not, because there's a river there. What's the quickest way of doing this? I'm going to start doing that, I guess. Oh, there's another curiosity. I'll actually go over there first because it's a slightly less awkward direction. And end turn. So far, this has been fairly peaceful, but we're doing everything that we need to do. That bear's coming to go say hello. We don't have any honey for you. I'm sorry. It's just going to move naturally, and the AI should be smart enough to be like, oh, if there was a bear here, it wouldn't just walk straight into it and declare a fight. Like to hope not, anyway. I like to think the game's more intelligent than that. Is an outpost in this region? No, we're not quite covered the border yet. So, quit out of that for a second. Go back. The way that these borders lay out, this is a really weird shaped district. And I'm still not sure that's the district you want to go in. Although, like I said, it does have a double resource of dye. But we have dye available. Is that the same district? No, it's not. So we do have dye closer to home. We have more horses. There's some lead down here. And lead is good to remember because lead is science. So that's definitely something you want to think about. Coffee is food, so coffee is still very good as well. Like I say, I tend to gravitate towards science and food by default if I'm just on autopilot. That's what happens when you play Civ for a long time, right? It's just those two things are pretty much paramount, and that is all you do when you don't know what to do. And I feel like that's how we might not just be completely hot trash with this game, because we're just basically playing it right now as if it was a game of Civ in my mind. I know it's not Civ, I think there's things about it I actually like more than Civ. I mean, I think it's a lot visually more exciting than Civ 6. It actually gives me a little bit of Civ 5 vibes in terms of the colour scheme. But obviously, it looks very similar to Endless Legend, made by the same company. I know I mentioned that last episode. But I like how it looks. There are still some UI things that I think could be distinctly improved, but we're going to kind of go through them as we go. Alibi is up to a population of 2, which is totally useless until we turn that into a city. How much does it cost to turn it into a city? 160. This amount grows exponentially the more cities you have, so it's not going to be unreasonable to see that a city needs like 20,000 influence to grow into one from an outpost when the time comes down the line. We won't have to worry about that for a while, though. And again, they left this unattended. However, we're not going to stay here this time because look at that. They are still only they're only tribes, though. 9 strength, 10 strength, 10 strength. We have a half health, 13 strength, and a 14 strength unit. I'm not even convinced they'll be able to take it out. And you'll notice you can't build an outpost in the same location as a place that already has an outpost. So we're just going to try and ransack it. That's going to force them to have to come back. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. It is tempting, though. How much money do we have for a while? Whopping 17 gold. We're making 2 a turn. It is tempting, now that we have horses, to get a scout out before these 2 districts. Just so we have a bit more defense and a bit more vision, because we can get more curiosities that way, right? And that is going to help towards the snowball. This is still a snowball heavy game, just like, again, Civ is. You want to get going. But in this game, unlike Civ, where it's just do everything the quickest and you win, this one has a little bit more to it, where, again, you don't necessarily have to rush through an era, because your fame score is the important one. And we have all the wildlife in the world around here because of that sanctuary. We have 40 faith. We're actually only in 3rd. The nation that we sat on at the start has no fame at all because I've not allowed them to get any. And it's not like I intentionally went out to bully a nation off the get-go. It just happened to go that way. We could also create our religion. We're going to do that next episode, I think. So I appreciate you having spent the time with me here. If you did enjoy the video, absolutely give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see some more. Hey, maybe even show some friends or family. So, more feedback I get, the more interesting this can be, the more fun it is for everybody. So, again, appreciate your time. Hopefully I see you next time. Peace out. Thank you for watching the video.